Okay, I think it's time finally to make another Blu-ray and DVD update, or most likely a few different ones, or a couple. I'm just gonna do one here, and then we'll see how much I have time to talk about, because, well, it's been a couple months, or 2.5 months, I think, since I filmed the last one, and I tend to watch quite a bit of stuff, as you're well aware. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So there's no way I can do this in one video. But I'm just gonna start by talking about as much as I can in this video, and then we'll see whether I need to make another one or a couple other ones. But anyway, what else? Well, I hope you had a nice Christmas, and I hope you had a nice New Year's celebration. It's not yet the New Year when I film this, but I'm guessing it will be by the time you see it. I suppose I could also mention that I have a Letterboxd account, which is not really all that exciting because I don't really do much. I just log the stuff that I'm watching, but I don't do it very frequently. So if you do decide to follow me, then you might see like a ton of added like entries or whatever all at once, as opposed to every day or whenever I watch the movies. Although if I do get some followers, right now I have all of 0 followers, but I haven't been talking about it, so that's my excuse. But yeah, if I do get some followers, then maybe I'll try to be a bit better with adding movies more frequently, so that you don't have to look at 50 logs at once. Yeah, alright, so let's just start by talking about whatever. I am gonna just quickly mention this first, Brain Dead. This is the only one that I watched for October, like the only movie that I picked for my collection in October to watch for, horror month or whatever. I just thought that I would mention it because this is apparently getting, Peter Jackson has said, which he has said before, but now the news has been circulating again, that he has been restoring Brain Dead and Meet the Feebles, I think. And that they look really good, and hopefully we'll get some nice Blu-ray editions of these soon, because when I revisited this for the first time in years, it's one of my favorites, it always has been, but I realized how awful the picture quality is, so a Blu-ray would be nice. Anyway, now this is the actual start of the update. I'm gonna show this first, Big Bang Theory Season 11. This show has gone on for a long time now. I think I got season 1 for my birthday, and then when season 2 was released, I bought that like day 1, and then I've done that for all the seasons. And I suppose the excitement of getting a new season of this has slowed down over the years, and by the time season 11 comes around, it's obviously not quite as good anymore, but I still like the show. I always get those. I suppose I can show the few DVDs and one Blu-ray that I got for Christmas. So I got this stand-up DVD. So this guy, Johan Glans, he is I would have to say, most likely my favorite stand-up comedian from Sweden. He's really the only one that I pay attention to, I suppose. This is his third stand-up special, World Tour of the World. This one was not as good as the other two, to me. The other two are hilarious. I can watch those quite a few times and not really get tired of them. But yeah, I got this and it was fun. There's actually a behind-the-scenes featurette, which was a really good one too, like a pretty substantial featurette, it's not something you see that often for like a Swedish stand-up DVD in 2018. With a behind-the-scenes extra on it. It's pretty unusual nowadays, so it was nice to see that. This one, Videomannen, my nose is... I'm gonna have to take some nasal spray. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry, I'm still a bit congested. I'm gonna try not to sniffle too much. Right, this one, Videomannen, you can probably translate that yourself, the video man. This was really cool because it's a movie about a VHS collector in 2018 who sort of lives in the past, and he loses his most valuable VHS tape, and then he has to find it. That's sort of the story. And this is a well-known actor in Sweden who I wasn't really a big fan of before, but I thought he was good in this role. The film, however, was a bit all over the place. I mean, the idea sounds obviously like something someone like me would want to watch. I mean, not that I'm stuck in the past and I don't collect VHS, but I do collect movies, and this guy does too. And they talk about movies a lot in the film, obviously. So it is a movie for movie fans. That's pretty clear. So this one I really enjoyed watching. But I will say that it was a bit jumbled, or a bit all over the place, not really that focused. Some things had me a bit confused as to the order of the events, the priority of the events, or how the whole thing played out. I don't really know if I thought they could have done it a lot better. One thing too with the movie is that he mainly talks about genre film, like 70s, 80s Italian horror and that kind of stuff. And so the film is a tribute to movies like that, I suppose. And so it does take on a kind of genre feel towards the end, especially, I guess, as, you know, continuing this tribute to that, to genre film. But I thought, to me, this movie, The Video Man, would have been better without the genre stuff in it. Just as a strict drama, I think would have been more up my alley. But it was still really, I really enjoyed it. And there's an interview on here with the guy who he's based on, who had a video store for like 26 years. One of the most popular video VHS rental stores, apparently. Which is something that I don't collect VHS, but I do see it a lot. People buy nowadays online in Sweden. People who collect old VHS tapes, they pay quite a lot for rare VHS tapes. And Sweden, I've come to understand, is we were a country who put out a lot of underground B movies on VHS. So there's there's a lot of that stuff that's never been transferred to DVD, and certainly not Blu-ray. And anyway, so yeah, for me that was a fun one, even though it certainly could have been better. Now these two I wanted because I am a fan of Monty Python. This one I saw last night, Nuns on the Run, with Eric Idle and Robbie Coltrane. I thought he was the best part of the movie, even though Eric Idle was the reason why I wanted to see it. But, this is a kind of goofy comedy in a style that I'm maybe not that into anymore. I think I would have enjoyed that a lot like 10 years ago, but now I just didn't. But it's still nice to see. This one with Michael Palin I haven't seen yet, but I thought that I would show it anyway. Maggie Smith as well. The Missionary, I think I will probably like this more. So yeah. And then this another Swedish thing, Grotesco's 7 masterpieces, and then the title screen follows that with a series in 8 parts. So I guess one of the episodes is not a masterpiece. You can see there's 8 pictures here. So this is a group that it would be easiest to compare them to something like Black Mirror. This is season 3 that they've named their 7 masterpieces, but it's basically season 3. It says so here actually. And season 1 and 2 are excellent. I have seen those, but it's been a while. This one aired about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, but I never saw it on TV, so I saw it now for the first time. Yeah, some fun episodes. Overall, I think it's probably a bit below the quality of season 1 and 2, although the episode Ladies' Night especially I thought was excellent. And if you are a fan of movies and comedy, and if you're from Sweden, there are so many. I don't know how they got all of them to be in the episode, because there are so many fucking cameos. There's like a couple dozen well-known comedians who are big names. People who get work, who they managed to get for that one episode. So that was just incredible to see. And then the season starts with a musical about the current political climate, which was also very good. Overall, I enjoyed it. There were a couple episodes that dragged on a bit, but overall, I mean, they are a really great humor or comedy group or whatever. Yeah, fairly similar to Black Mirror, I suppose, but there are certainly differences. Let me talk about a few Blu-ray releases, some horror. So I bought this, City of the Living Dead, by Lucio Fulci, which I had before, and I'm gonna keep this because there's a bunch of extras on this, if you're not aware, which were not ported over to this. I mean, they recorded so many new interviews for this. I don't know how many hours of interviews they recorded for this release, but it has to be like 3 hours at least. And I watched a few of them, but it's just really great to see all those interviews, even though, I mean, it already had a really good release, so I'm not sure exactly why they decided to re-release it, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I like seeing this stuff. I like the movie a lot. I had seen it a couple times before, but I had never listened to the commentary, so I did that now. And yeah, so a nice release, but like I said, I'm gonna hold on to this because yeah, there are extras that are not on the new one. These three I bought from Eureka as a bundle. I don't know exactly how much I paid. Maybe was it £40 or 45 maybe, and then the shipping was free. I think these were announced around the same time and they were released around the same time as well, because they shipped them to me together, which of course is why they sold them as a bundle. So I'll just show these all together. This one I haven't seen yet, so I'm gonna have to come back and talk about that at a later date. But Night of the Creeps, let's see, 1986. I don't know exactly what I've heard about this. There's quite a few Night of the movies, so I think I've mixed some of them together, but this one I haven't seen and I don't really know anything about it, but I think I'll probably enjoy it. This, Troll 1 and 2, as well as Best Worst Movie also is included here. I had seen all those before, all three movies. I did watch Troll 1 again and really enjoyed it actually. I mean, if you like low budget 80s effects horror, I mean, it's not a great one, but honestly I think it's a lot of fun and there are some good effects in it and some good actors. The second one I'd seen a couple times before, so maybe even 3 times. Yeah, I think so actually. So I didn't watch that again, but I did listen to the commentary, which I'd never heard before, which had what's their names? Well, 2 of the actors from the movie, and I can't say it was all that informative, but it was, you know, it was fun for a nerd, I suppose. And then the documentary Best Worst Movie I had on DVD before, so I don't need to keep that now. So I did watch that again, and really enjoyed it all over. I mean, it's such a bizarre story, and so many interesting characters, and the trajectory of, like, I can't remember his name. What is his name? George something? The main, the guy who plays the father in the movie. I can't think of his name. I'm sure it's on the back. I just can't find it. The trajectory he goes through, if that's the right word, in the documentary is really interesting to see. Like, those scenes at the convention, I mean, they're a bit sad, but they're priceless. I mean, it's just great documentary content. Anyway, this one, Monkey Shines, I didn't like, I have to admit. It's by George Romero. This one I just didn't really like, but I do like, what's his name? Jason Baig. I can't pronounce his name. He plays the main role and he's really good. And John Pankow, I'm a big fan of him from, you know, Mad About You and Episodes and Live and Die in LA. So good cast, I would say. I am going to talk about a bunch of random stuff, I suppose. There's a pile here of all kinds of stuff. So first of all, I upgraded some time ago to Scorsese films to Blu-ray. I had these on DVD, I had seen them once before. Raging Bull, first of all, 30th anniversary, fantastic Blu-ray, really good extras and stuff on this, and I love this film. I mean, I didn't get it in the same way last time, because it's probably been like 8 years since I saw this, and I liked it back then, but it didn't really click with me. But now it definitely did. It's a tragic story, but a really beautifully told story, and some really great music in this. I forget exactly. Anyway, there's some really great music. I'm not sure if it's written for the film or if Scorsese, because he does that. I've heard people say that Scorsese has a massive library in his head of music, and whenever he feels like a certain song that he has heard in the past, it could be 50 years ago, that he feels is right for this scene, he'll dig that out, you know, and use that. So it may be something like that, but whatever the song was, I mean, I apologize that I can't specify which one it is. It's been a while since I saw the movie now, but that music is just beautiful. I think it might be the song they play over those home videos that they've made. Anyway, such a good movie. This one I liked a lot more. It's interesting how you change over the years, because 8 years ago when I saw these for the first time, or however long it's been, I probably liked Casino more. But now that sort of flipped, and I ended up thinking that this was a bit, I don't know what word I should use, maybe a bit bloated, or maybe a bit too much. I don't know. I mean, I totally get it, and I feel like, yeah, I don't know, I am fascinated by this stuff, like gangsters running Las Vegas. I mean, that sounds like it's a great idea for a movie. And I mean, I like it quite a bit, but I did find myself maybe getting a little bit bored towards the end, which is not a good thing. It is a 3-hour film, but that shouldn't really matter. Anyway, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but I'm just saying that I liked it more before. I've also been upgrading some Coen brothers movies to Blu-ray, so Racing Arizona, these two, Barton Fink as well. These two I think are bare bones, both of them, unfortunately. But I enjoyed both of them again. Racing Arizona is not one of my favorites from them, but it's a really good one. It's really fun. I have become a bigger fan of Nicolas Cage recently, actually, and I'm gonna continue with that for the next title. Actually, I'm gonna put that here. Yeah, I have. And he's good in this, and a bunch of great actors in this as well. I love the scene where he has to, I think he's stealing diapers and he drops them, and then he has to go back and pick up the diapers. That whole scene is so much fun. Barton Fink is a different kind of movie. This one I remember, I really didn't get this the last time I saw it, which again must have been 7 years ago. I definitely got it now, and reading some reviews, a couple of things were made even clearer. So, I mean, the Coen brothers are sort of notoriously mysterious as to what their movies are about, and sometimes it's hard to figure them out as directors, as filmmakers. Like when they discuss like the seed of a movie, like what made them want to make this movie. It's like, oh, we heard this song, and then we saw this picture on the wall, and we were like, yeah, that'd be good. And you're like, what? What do you mean? Yeah, we saw this picture on the wall. What do you mean, picture on the wall? I mean, you're expecting something profound, like, so this is an anyway. But you don't really get that from them. You have to figure that out for yourself. And this is definitely a thought-provoking movie. It's really good. I don't think it's one of my favorites from them. They have made so many good movies that even though Barton Fink is a great film, I mean, movies like Fargo and Big Lebowski, and maybe especially No Country for Old Men, also as well as Blood Simple, actually, I'd rate those higher, I think. But yeah, it's an excellent film. Now I said that I was going to talk about another Nicolas Cage film. You may know which one it is. It's called Mandy. Uh, so this one I had been looking forward to for a while, and I had this pre-ordered, watched it as soon as I got it, and it's a really trippy film. I don't know, it's a really weird one. It's not really a fantasy because I don't know that there wasn't really anything supernatural in the movie. I mean, maybe a couple small things, but not really. But it certainly doesn't feel like it takes place in our world. The way they filmed it, it's almost like, I don't know, they put this filter, like this infernal filter in front of the camera, and everything you see is just kind of skewed, or whatever the word is, just messed up in some way, and I honestly don't really know what to make of it. But watching the behind the scenes, it seems like it was mainly like a stylistic visual film. I mean, it is, but like that's the reason why the director made the movie. He borrowed a bunch of things and put them together to make a really cool visual feast, and that's what I got out of it too. And I mean, I'm definitely gonna return to this. It's but I don't really know what to make of it exactly. But it is really good. Also, I can't watch a movie and hear the song "Starless" by King Crimson without commenting on that, because that's, if I had to make like a top 10 favorite songs, which is not easy, that song would be on that list. I mean, if you haven't heard King Crimson, or at least that song "Starless," I mean, that song is like perfect. So that's the song that the film opens with. So I knew that I was in for something special. Anyway, let's move on with another horror film, I suppose. It Follows. I might have shown this before, but I saw this a while ago. Yeah, I liked it, I suppose, but it's a really cool idea, I will admit. It really gives a sense of paranoia, and you really understand why the main character is paranoid, because you know the scenario, you know what's happening, and yeah, I think that's why the movie works. I got this, The Producers, 50th anniversary edition. So Mel Brooks made this film, his first feature-length film, 50 years ago, and then he followed with a bunch of other fun movies. This one I had actually never seen before. I think it might be the only one that I had never seen, and it's definitely one of his most famous movies. Yeah, I mean, I knew the story. I had seen. Yeah, I mean, I knew the story pretty well. But it was nice to finally see the movie. A really clever movie, really. And Gene Wilder is excellent, obviously. Cyril Mostel, and I mean, Mel Brooks is 92 years old, but here he is appearing in a Q&A filmed in 2018, and the man stands up. He refuses to sit down. I've never seen a more energetic 92-year-old, and I've said that before. I'm guessing I'm gonna keep saying that, because I don't think he's gonna die anytime soon, which I think would be terrible. I mean, there are only so many people who you can say that they died young when they're 92. But if Mel Brooks if I heard the news tomorrow that Mel Brooks had died, I'd be like, what? But he was only 92. He seems so full of life at that age, which is pretty extraordinary, I think. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of Mel Brooks, so it was probably good that I finally got around to watching that movie. That's a fairly new UK release. All right, this next one from Masters of Cinema ended up being a new favorite film of mine. Period. It's Paper Moon by Peter Bogdanovich. Another film that he made, I think, like a year before this, or a couple of years before this, The Last Picture Show. I saw that. I happen to remember how I know what I was doing when I was watching it, so I know how long it is. It's let's see, 5.5 years ago. It was in the summer of 2013, and when I saw that turned out, or that ended up being one of my new favorite movies. I haven't seen it since, but I'd like to revisit it now. But I mean, two movies from the same director on that list. I mean, that's pretty good. Unfortunately, Peter Bogdanovich, after this, I mean, something happened in his career. I don't know exactly what. I actually recently watched that Orson Welles film on Netflix, The Other Side of the Wind, and the accompanying documentary about it called They'll Love Me When I'm Dead. And apparently Peter Bogdanovich had a really close relationship with Orson Welles. But anyway, they do mention something about his career. It's, not really, or the momentum kind of slowed down or whatever after this. He weren't able to recreate the genius of those two movies, this one and Last Picture Show, and I don't really know exactly why. But anyway, Paper Moon was such a good movie. It's a road movie, a father and daughter, and they're actually played by father and daughter. Really beautiful black and white photography as well. Yeah, I just loved it. So yeah. Then I got this on DVD, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which is a film by Sam Peckinpah. If I remember correctly from there's some kind of a couple of featurettes here. There's some kind of troubled release history of this. I mean, I don't think, I can't really recall now, but Sam Peckinpah I don't think he was quite happy with the cut, or the cut that was released wasn't to his liking, or I don't know. But I still think that the movie is really good. The picture quality, I mean, it could use an upgrade. I don't know if this is out on Blu-ray. Maybe, I don't know. But I couldn't get a Blu-ray right now. But I really wanted to see this because I do like Sam Peckinpah. I did watch a couple other ones of his westerns last year, I think. Ride the High Country and what's the other one? The Ballad of something. And I really liked, especially Ride the High Country. So I had been wanting to see this ever since, and I just decided to pick up the DVD now. It's really good, even though I think I would enjoy it a lot more on Blu-ray. But yeah, I liked it quite a bit. Yeah. Let's see. I have a couple of classics here. This one I've shown before, but I just watched it finally. Ron. Yeah, what a film. I mean, to me, I guess it wasn't perfect. I mean, there are certain things with some of Kurosawa's movies that is not, maybe not my cup of tea, if you will. Like some of the acting. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that it's not really my thing, I guess. Some of that exaggerated acting, or Shakespearean or theatrical acting. I mean, it works for the film, I guess, but it's just some of that stuff that puts me off a little bit. But I mean, the visuals in this is really unforgettable. I mean, that scene when that the battle at that castle, the way that's filmed is really, I mean, masterful. You never see things like that. Obviously, I knew that I was in for something like that for this film. I mean, I had heard obviously great things about it. So also one of those movies that it's almost a bit daunting to get into, because you know that it's so beloved and it's such a huge film. But it really is a good one. I like the ending too, and the way they talk about pawns. You almost get the feeling that they're all pawns, and that's what Kurosawa wanted to say. That, you know, the world is just a big chessboard or something. I don't know, but it was. I mean, obviously a great film. Another classic, The Third Man. Really good, really good film. This very unusual music. I mean, the kind of music you wouldn't really expect the choice of music to be this. in a film noir or a mystery thriller like this one. And I suppose I bought this because of Orson Welles. I think, I mean, he's not the starring role in this movie, and he definitely didn't write or direct it or anything like that. But I think I just wanted to try to get to see some more movies by and with Orson Welles. Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent film. Some of those scenes are just masterfully done. That, like how Orson Welles is introduced, for example, they used that cat to introduce him, which was a really cool way of introducing a character. And yeah, I mean, it's a major classic. Obviously, it's hard to know what to say about it, but really, really great. And already from the opening, I mean, just a couple minutes of narration and information, exposition in the beginning, just so elegantly told to the viewer to really very effectively let the viewer know what the situation is. And anyway, just a really good movie. This one, Turtles Can Fly, a film by Bahman Gobadi. I think he's Iranian, isn't he? I could be wrong. I think he's an Iranian filmmaker. It's a war film, really grim war film. I suppose shows the brutal realities of war. Not a pleasant watch, but a really good film that I'd recommend. Yeah, and then this one is also by an Iranian filmmaker, Hannah Makhmalbaf. I think she was like 14 years old when she filmed it, but it's just sort of a behind-the-scenes movie. Well, okay, so the Makhmalbaf family in Iran, especially Mohsen Makhmalbaf, he's a very well-known filmmaker, and I think he started some kind of school in Iran, a filmmaking school, which essentially turned out to be just for his kids. I mean, I think his children were the main ones who like enrolled, or whatever the word is, who he taught. So he ended up teaching his kids about film, I think, and they all went into filmmaking as well. And this woman right here is Samira Makhmalbaf. She directed a film called At 5 in the Afternoon, I think it's called. Something like that. Yeah, right there. And Hannah Makhmalbaf, her younger sister, she brought a camera and she filmed the process of casting the main actress for At 5 in the Afternoon, which they went to Afghanistan to do. And again, I mean, like with this one, it also shows the sort of harsh realities of war, or a war-torn country, which is so far from, obviously, from what I'm used to and all of that. So it's a look into another world, and really interesting document too. Them trying to find the actress, not through casting calls or anything, but they're just trying to find somebody who can play the role. And she's this woman here who ends up playing the role is certainly not an actress. I think she's a teacher, and there's a lot of fear about, like, she doesn't know if it's gonna be okay with her husband that she's gonna be in the film, and there's a lot of fears and paranoia and superstitions and stuff like that from that people in Afghanistan who encounters this film crew, and they don't know what they want. And anyway, so really interesting documentary, I have to say. Even though it's just a girl walking around with a camera, it turns out to be a really good documentary film. I do have quite a few documentaries, as always. I like watching documentaries. Well, actually, I can show this. This is another film from Iran. I do like Iranian films. So before I move on to some more documentaries, let me talk about this one, Offside, by Jafar Panahi, who I really like him a lot. Like, I really respect him as a filmmaker, and somebody who didn't obey the rules that filmmakers had to follow in Iran, or have to follow in Iran. I talked about this a while ago, but you may already know the story. Jafar Panahi, he did stuff in his movies that you weren't allowed to do in Iran, and so he was banned from making films, put under house arrest, and forbidden to leave the country, forbidden to give interviews and all that stuff. But he still made a couple films after that where he kind of bends those rules, anyway, it doesn't matter. But the ones that he made before, I hadn't seen until recently. I saw the first one that he made before that ban, and I loved that one, which was called I forget the title. It was called, let me look, Crimson Gold, right. I love that film. And so here's the next one. I just saw this, that's really stupid. A Farsi Bandit Like Beckham. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so this was the next one from Jafar Panahi before the band that I saw. And I didn't like it quite as much as Crimson Gold, but it's a good film. I mean, an Iranian film about mostly young girls or women who attend a soccer game, and they're not allowed to attend the soccer game. Somebody has the explanation that, oh, but they could overhear cuss words, and they're women, so we can't have them around people who cuss. Like, okay, and so, but there are still a bunch of girls who go against that rule or that law, and they go to the soccer game, but then they end up being put outside of the actual game, like in a little a fenced area, whatever, and there are guards there who make sure that they stay there. And anyway, so I really do respect Jafar Panahi a lot, and I want to see his other movies too. Everything he's made, I'd like to see, but anyway, I'm getting them one by one. All right, so let's move on to some documentaries. This one I've been wanting to see for a long time, and I fucking loved it. It was so good. Confessions of a Superhero. So I've said this dozens of times before, but it's always makes sense to say when I talk about something like this, a documentary like this, like the reason why I like movies like these. It's one of my favorite genres of documentaries, or genres period. Just real life depictions of eccentrics, and who they are, what they do. That's sort of less important. But I just love well-made documentaries about interesting, eccentric people who have some kind of quirk or a very strong passion about something that is unusual in some way. And this is definitely in that category, especially because of this guy here, who you might recognize him actually. I mean, I saw a Swedish reality show years ago where they interviewed him. He plays Superman on the Hollywood Boulevard, but he's only one of the people that the documentary follows, because that's what the theme is. They follow people who play superheroes and well-known, like pop culture icons or figures, who makes a living playing them, so to speak, just walking around on this Hollywood Boulevard and taking pictures with people and asking for tips. So that's what they do for a living, and the documentary follows a bunch of those people. You can see Batman here. He was also a really interesting guy. Like, some of the stuff he reveals, you don't know whether you're supposed to believe him or not, and if he is telling the truth, then it's some pretty wild stuff. So, and but I think the main reason why I liked it so much is this guy here, who plays Superman, who has had some trouble recently. I think some people say that he has a problem with drugs, but for whatever reason he became homeless recently. But that happened after this film. But he's a big Superman fan. His apartment consists of nothing but Superman stuff, and I just love looking into the lives of people like that. So if you like movies like that yourself, then I can really recommend Confessions of a Superhero. I do like Joan Rivers, so I wanted to get this, a Dog Woof DVD. I love Dog Woof, a piece of work. So this is just following her around for a year, and that's it. And I like those documentaries too. Yeah, Joan Rivers died a few years ago. I don't know. I mean, I've seen her in a few things. She's mainly a stand-up comedian. She was a stand-up way, you know, in the 60s, a long time ago, and kept that up until her death, really. And she was definitely a workaholic, and you know, I think an interesting person to make a documentary about. So this was one that I had been wanting to see for some time. This next one is a very similar documentary, although it's about a political figure. It's called Wiener. Follows this guy around after he sort of is running for mayor, or I guess he does that after this scandal happens, and then he tries to break out of that, I guess, and get back into the world of politics. And the film starts after this scandal has started, and yeah, follows him around, and it was really good. It was one of those. I mean, sometimes it's hard to know if it's a well-made documentary or if it just comes down to luck, because all you have to do when you film, but you know, when you make a film like this, I guess it's just to turn on your camera and film whatever is happening around you. And so sometimes it's one of those things where you're at the right place at the right time. But I mean, that doesn't make the film any less good, or you know, it doesn't take away from what the filmmakers did, I don't think. I really like that one. Oh, and this next one is another one of those where it just follows the Dixie Chicks around. This one is called Shut Up and Sing, which is really crazy that something like that, something so small, could result in something so big. The Dixie Chicks, I don't really know much about them, but they are a group of singers, and I knew about this before, that one of them, during a gig, that she expressed her unhappiness with George Bush as president. She during a concert, she just said something, I don't know exactly what she said, but it wasn't overly harsh. I mean, I don't know. She just spoke her mind or whatever, and she shouldn't have done that. That's what the result was anyway. I mean, people were furious with her for speaking her mind, and yeah, so that's what that was. I ended up sort of half liking it. I mean, I wasn't that grabbed by it. I don't know. It was fine. This one, Room 237. I knew about this. A friend of mine recommended this to me years ago. He said that he had seen it. It's, I mean, The Shining is a really good film, but it's one of those movies that it's hard to know what it's about. It's a really cryptic movie. And this documentary is about, I don't know how many, maybe 5 people who have their theories about what the movie is actually about. And it's not a talking heads movie, because you never see them. You just hear their voices, which I thought was a bit disorienting sometimes, because sometimes I didn't know who was talking, because I didn't have a face to the voice. Anyway, but yeah, just some people who have various creative interpretations of the film The Shining. And when I was watching this, the main thing that was running through my mind is that, I mean, with a film like The Shining, it's a film by Stanley Kubrick, it's a huge classic, and knowing that people have a tendency of finding patterns and meaning where there is nothing. Like, of course, if you're looking for something, you'll find it. Like, especially in a film like this, where there's so much information on screen, there's so much to find and to dissect, and to make that suit your narrative. Like, people get ahead of themselves, and most of this just seemed like nonsense. But it was still interesting to listen to these people's obsessive speeches about what the film is actually about. They knew everything about it. I mean, they knew what, props in the background. They had gone through the movie frame by frame. Like, who does that, really? Anyway, it's film nerdery at a whole other level, I guess. But I will also mention that I recently watched a film called Film Worker about Leon Vitali, who was Stanley Kubrick's sort of right hand, and he's still alive. And so I was curious about, because if there's anyone who, I feel like if there's one person who knows if the stuff that's brought up in this is actually true or not, it's gonna be Leon Vitali. So I googled it, and I found a statement from him where he said that 80%, I know for a fact that 80% of this is just false, just bullshit. That's basically what he said, which is not surprising. But what is interesting is that, so there is 20% of this that's maybe there's some truth to, and it's not really that difficult to figure out what 20% those may be. I mean, there were a couple people, or one person, or a couple theories, whatever, who made more sense. But yeah, but apparently a lot of people had the same thought that I had when watching this, that it's more an interesting journey into the psyches of these people and their obsessive nature, more than it is an exploration of the film The Shining, if that makes sense. But alright, okay, so I don't know what else to talk about. Let's grab some stuff from these piles. Life's Too Short. I actually saw this on Netflix. I really liked. I watched Derek first, which I was never interested in before. It just looked over the top to me for some reason. But I mean, I love Extras and The Office, and I'm a fan of Ricky Gervais. So I watched Derek. Really liked it. I'm gonna pick up the DVD at some point. And then after I watched that, I checked out Life's Too Short, which was also on Netflix, and loved it. I thought, I mean, Warwick Davis is such a good. He's so good in this. Like, it's a really fun show. So I just bought the DVD to own, and there is a second DVD with a special, which I guess I'll pick up eventually. Another show, a Region 1 release, The Bronx is Burning. Can't watch this right now because I need to get another region-free player. My old one is dead. But I did find this very cheap, and it's a show that I've been interested in because Oliver Platt and John Turturro is in it, and that's enough reason for me to see it. So I'm looking forward to it whenever I'll be able to see it. Here's a film called Metro Manila in the Philippines. This was really good. It says Great Britain's Oscar entry or whatever. So this a film directed by a British director, I guess. But he went to the Philippines and Manila, and he saw what he saw, and he wanted to make a film about what he saw, which was poverty, I guess, mainly. And that's what the film is about. It's about this family who they're really down on their luck. They can't afford to live, and so they have to go to the city and find work. And it really, I mean, it looks like an action film on the cover, you know, or a thriller, and it ends up being that. But for the first half hour or so, it's just a drama, and it's really good all the way through. Like, I really liked it, and the ending was in a way fairly typical, one of these sort of bittersweet, definitely sad, but in a way definitely positive as well, kind of half twist endings, which you kind of recognize the kind of ending, but it really worked well. And it, yeah, so I mean, I thought this was a great movie. This one, Boulevard, Robin Williams, I think his last movie. Yeah, you know, it's always sad to think about Robin Williams, but that's not the reason why I hadn't seen this until now. I just never really, I didn't think it looked that good, but I did want to watch it now, finally, and I actually liked it. It was a bit cheesy, and some of the music that they use is just, they should have just kept the scenes quiet, because that music is just terrible. Like, just stock music, just awful music, and some pretty bad camera angles and stuff like that. So on a technical level, it could have been better. I think the script and direction could have been better, but I don't know. I think the situation and his Robin Williams performance and his character is interesting enough to definitely give this a recommendation. I've thought about it, and I actually liked it. Yeah. So I was happy to watch it. This one I bashed a couple years ago. It's a Swedish film that's been very praised. A man called Ove, I think the English title is, which is what the Swedish title means. I just didn't like it. I saw it a couple years ago and didn't like it, but I found a Blu-ray very cheap, like $1. So I just thought, all right, I'll buy that and see if I like it more upon rewatching it. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm gonna do that eventually. Alright, here's a David Lynch film that I bought for $1 during a sale years ago, and I just watched it. It took me a while, but I watched it now, and yeah, it was good. Not one of his best, and the ending I didn't really like. Like, it just wasn't really that effective. I mean, I think a movie should leave you on a high note, obviously. I mean, that's what you're gonna walk away from. I mean, those are the last scenes you're gonna see, so they should be memorable. The ending to this just was kind of blah to me, whatever. But but overall, a really fun movie, or yeah, I'd say a fun movie. And a good cast. Oh, and again, Nicolas Cage. I didn't realize that. I mean, I didn't realize that I had a third one with Nicolas Cage. Laura Dern. I think Laura Dern is a great actress. From, you know, her great performance early on in Mask, which I saw recently, to Big Little Lies more recently. Yeah, she's a great actress. And Willem Dafoe has a really good scene in this. And then Crispin Glover, Harry Dean Stanton, etc. So, good cast. Here's a movie called Dean Spanley, which I bought because of Peter O'Toole. Dean Spanley is the name of Sam Neill's character, so it's mainly this Jeremy Northam. I don't really know who he is, but it's this guy, but I don't know the actor. That character meets Sam Neill's character, and then Peter O'Toole plays his father. And I honestly didn't like this one very much until the end, where it really came together nicely. It was actually quite moving at the end, and I think ultimately it ended up being about his father, about Peter O'Toole. Like, that's the reason why it was moving, or most of the reason why it moved me was because of his character, because of how he reacts to something, or what he says, or anyway. And he reacts to a story that Sam Neill tells, which is also in itself pretty moving actually. But that all happens in the end, and until that, or before that, I wasn't really a big fan of it. But I recently saw Venus, which is a film with Peter O'Toole from a couple years before this, and I really liked that movie, so I basically bought this one because it's a movie with Peter O'Toole from around the same time that he made Venus, so that's anyway. But yeah, it was actually quite good. Here's a film from Mexico. I wonder how many films I've seen that's made in Mexico. I don't think it's a ton. But Healy, I was really stoked to find this because I thought this was sold out. But then I was scrolling on Ginsa, a Swedish website, and I found the DVD for a couple bucks, and I was like, well, I thought that sold out like a couple years ago, or last year maybe. But sometimes they have a second stock, I guess, and I managed to get a copy of this, so I was really happy about that. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite movie, but I was really glad to get it because I had been wanting to see it. This one I saw yesterday, Dark Horse, a film by Dagur Kari, an Icelandic filmmaker, but this is a Danish film, or it's shot. It's they speak Danish, and it takes place in Denmark. I'd seen Noi the Albino before, and I really liked that. So this is the second one that I see from him. And honestly, I had a bit of a hard time with this. I just never really got into it. But I don't know. It was quite good, I suppose. I mean, as many movies as I've talked about now, I mean, there's so many left. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna pause the camera and get one more stack of movies and talk about those, and then that's gonna have to be it for this one. Okay, so we got another stack of 15 or so titles, so we'll talk about those, and then that'll be it. So these three I actually found in the same store, but I found two of them first. I found these two first, and then I went back, and they had I don't know if I missed this one or if they got this in later for some reason. But these are three DVD box sets with volume 1, 2 and 3 by three directors, Spike Jonze, Chris Cunningham and Michel Gondry. Collected works from these directors, and I paid like $1 for these, like together. Like, it was absurdly cheap. The pricing they had the first time I went there, I don't know. I ended up paying like $1 for these altogether. But yeah, so these are three box sets that collects music videos from these directors. I mean, Michel Gondry and Spike Jonze are film directors. That's how I know them. But they've directed music videos as well. Chris Cunningham, he's worked with Aphex Twin, I happen to know, and other stuff. So that's mainly what's on here, music videos. These two, I guess, have some other stuff on them as well. A couple documentaries on here and stuff like that. But again, these are Region 1 releases, so I can't watch them quite yet, but I don't really mind. I mean, it was nice to add those. I knew about the releases, and to find them for that price, I mean, I couldn't pass it up. I mean, I love Spike Jonze, huge fan of him. Michel Gondry, I like and respect quite a bit. And Chris Cunningham, well, it was the price made me. I mean, I bought the other two, so I just figured Chris Cunningham. I don't know too much about him, but I'll just buy that as well. Anyway, let's see what else we have here. I mentioned Ginsa before, and I actually have a DVD about their 40 golden years, 1968 to 2008. So I just like stuff like this. It's a little documentary film produced probably by them, and it's a 35-minute long documentary about the history of Ginsa, It was quite a pleasant watch, actually. This is a Romanian film, and I think the English title to this was Child's Pose. I've seen a couple Romanian movies before, or at least one, but this one, I didn't like it. I understand that people generally like this. It's a pretty well acted drama and all that, but I just didn't like the people. I just thought the characters were annoying, and even though they are put in a very difficult situation, an awful situation, I just didn't really care about it, and that's all I can say. For whatever reason, I just never felt like I could sympathize with them for whatever reason. Maybe that was my fault, but anyway, I just didn't really like it. This one, Miles Ahead, is, I remember that years ago when I had this little document where I wrote down upcoming movies that I wanted to see. I had this in that document because I've been a fan of Miles Davis now for a number of years, and this is Don Cheadle's, as I thought this was a biography or biopic about Miles Davis, and I wanted to. It took me until now to see it. It's not really a biography. It's more of a more freely interpreted film, I guess. I mean, it's Don Cheadle talks about it in the Q&A and the commentary and stuff. He didn't just want to make a boring autobiography or biography about him, about Miles Davis. He wanted to make something more special, something that was more, along the lines of who Miles Davis was as a person, more of a poetic exploration of his psyche, or I don't really know. It just didn't work for me. I would have much rather seen a boring biography. I don't think they have to be boring just because they follow someone's life from A to C. I mean, that makes a movie boring? I don't think so. It comes down to how you make it, obviously. So I thought that was honestly a shame that he had that approach to it, and I would have rather seen a more typical biopic. But anyway, that's me. I will say that Don Cheadle, he really played Miles Davis well. Yeah. Okay, so this next one is a Mike Leigh film. It's called Career Girls. I especially like her. What's her name? Catherine. Yeah, Catherine Cartledge. Okay. Anyway, unfortunately, I learned that she died a few years after this, which is a real shame because she was a really good actress. I've seen her in something else before. I thought she was great in this, but overall, this was not my favorite film by Mike Leigh. I do like him quite a bit, but this wasn't my favorite. Here's one called Wasabi. I may have shown this before. I felt like watching something French, I guess, and I like Jean Reno. It's an action comedy from 2003. Takes place in Japan mostly. It is actually quite fun if you like these kinds of movies and you just want to turn your brain off and enjoy kind of dumb, sort of dated movie. I mean, I've said this before, I think, but for whatever reason, whenever I see like action movies or dramas or like big budget movies, I don't know exactly how big budget this has, but anyway, movies from like the early to mid 2000s, like 2000 to 2005, like in that range or whatever, they always appear to be so dated for various reasons, like more so than what movies from the 90s are. And it's not just because of CGI, it's just something stylistic. Sometimes they are just so dark and boring to look at, and sometimes with action comedies like these, it's just the way they're done which makes them feel dated. anyway. It wasn't really a problem, but I guess I mention it because if you're in the mood for something like that, an action comedy from 2003, then this is quite a fun one actually. Here's a film by Peter Greenaway, The Baby of Macon. This one, it took me a little while to figure out because I don't know, it's hard to explain, but the actors, they're on a stage, like on a theater stage, and they're playing the scene out, and then you have an audience in the film watching them. But it didn't seem like what happened on stage was a play in the film. It seemed like it was actually happening. So why does it happen on a theater stage, and why are people watching them? It almost seemed to break what a film is, like, which I know that Peter Greenaway has criticized what film is and what he wants it to be. Like he has a different vision for film, I guess, or cinema than most people. As that's what I heard anyway, a couple of years ago. But so maybe it's something like that. He wanted to change what a film is because it almost plays like a film / theater performance, like a merging bit of the two. I've seen a couple of his movies before. I think 3 actually. I recently saw The Draftman's Contract, which was a weird movie, but a movie that I really liked. And so I was hoping to like whatever the next film I was watching from Peter Greenaway, I was hoping to like the next one as much, but unfortunately this one just wasn't really up my alley. Here's one called Marchland, which is a Spanish film. Yeah, not my favorite. It's a thriller mystery kind of thing, which is not generally my thing. So I didn't really like it, unfortunately. This next one is a drama with Charlotte Rampling, which is sort of the reason why I bought this. I actually really like it. She's, well, I guess she speaks French, but she speaks British as well. And then there's an American in this and someone from Canada. But it takes place in on Haiti, where they speak French. But it all revolves around this guy, Legba, who captures all these older women's attention, and that's sort of what it's about. That general scenario, and I liked it quite a bit actually. Charlotte Rampling from Swimming Pool and Lemming. I'd like to see more movies with her. Here's one that I just watched because of Gerard Depardieu, to be honest. I mean, maybe I should say that I watched it because of Claude Chabrol, but I don't really know too much about. I don't know enough about him, not as much as I should. But I am a big fan of Gerard Depardieu, and I like his later movies. For some reason, I just like watching him. This is a kind of a detective thing. I didn't like it. I just didn't. I liked the beginning, but as soon as the investigation or whatever starts, it's a bit of an atypical film to begin with, and it becomes clear towards the end that it's about something else, I suppose. It wasn't my favorite, and there is a decision. I mean, he plays 2 different characters. He sort of plays somebody who looks like him, and I thought that was weird to cast the same guy to play a different actor. That felt incredibly cheesy to me, unfortunately. Okay, so we have a few Swedish documentary, or actually we have one other documentary first. Janis, Little Girl Blue. Yeah, documentary about Janis Joplin. Found this cheap. It was quite good. I don't have too much else to say about that. Here's one. I mean, I pick up all kinds of random documentaries in the hopes that one of them is just really gonna click, and so sometimes I buy random stuff, but it's hard to know what it's gonna be about or what it's gonna be like until you watch it, and I don't mind that. I really like going in blind into a documentary. This one, An Ordinary Family, this guy, I think I've seen some more films from him. He's Swedish, I think. But this one takes place, he filmed this in Argentina. There's where I guess a depression happened, and they were forced to sell a bunch of stuff and move, and they were in some trouble, this family, this ordinary family. Anyway, it was okay. Probably one that I'm gonna forget fairly quickly. This was actually a really good one. The Queen and I, whatever the English title is, if there is an English title, I don't know. But this, I do know of a few of her films, and I'd like to see some more. But this one is about this filmmaker's relationship with the former Queen of Iran before the revolution happened. This filmmaker, she's from Iran, she lives in Sweden now, and I guess she's a Swedish filmmaker, but she was part of the Iranian Revolution that brought down the king and the queen, and they were forced into exile. And then all these years later, she makes a film where she goes to meet the queen, who now lives in Paris, or the former queen, who now lives in Paris. And this was fascinating. This was really good. If you can find this with English subtitles, or if you happen to speak Swedish, then I would recommend it. Okay, so now this last one, I'm really glad that I bought. This is 3 documentaries. I don't know if I need to mention the titles, but you know, you have the 3 titles here of the 3 different films. It's the same filmmaker following this couple for I don't know how many years, but 3 different movies, 3 different situations, I guess. But yeah, it's just this older couple. The camera follows them. They meet these people from Spain or Portugal, maybe. I don't, or maybe Italy. Oh, I should remember that. No, Buenos Aires. So again, Argentina. Okay, so so they come to visit them in Sweden in the second one, and that's maybe the best one. Some people they had become acquainted with in the first film when they went to Argentina, I guess. And then the third one is a bit more low key, perhaps. All of them are, I suppose. But I mean, yeah. So this is just a box set with these 3 documentaries, and it's really lovely. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's something that I really love watching. And I ended up really liking this older couple. They were, they were sweet, and they were nicely portrayed. And there's a lot of that stuff in Sweden, a lot of documentaries like that. And so, yeah, again, I love collecting that. So that's it for this video. A bunch of different things. Yeah, as always, I do my best to do justice or whatever to all these movies, but sometimes it's hard to come up with the best things to say when you have 50 different films that deserve, you know, separate reviews. You know, I mean, I do my best. Anyway, I hope the video was fine. Hope you enjoyed it. And there's gonna be another one certainly shortly after this one, so look out for that. And yeah, see you then.